Success is not something you chase. It is something you become. And what you become is decided by how your mind is programmed. Most people think they lack talent, luck, or opportunity. But the real issue is this: their mind is running old software. Comfort over growth. Distraction over focus. Emotion over discipline. If you want a different life, you need a different mental code. Your brain is constantly adapting. Every time you repeat an action, you strengthen a pathway. Every time you quit, procrastinate, or give in to distractions, you train your mind to escape difficulty. But the opposite is also true. Every time you do what is hard, especially when you don't feel like it, you build mental strength. Discipline is not something you are born with. It is something you practice daily until it becomes automatic. Focus is a superpower in a distracted world. People believe they need more motivation to focus, but the truth is they need fewer distractions. Every notification, every scroll, every unnecessary conversation steals your mental energy. Success requires depth, not noise. When you train your mind to stay on one task, even when it gets boring, you develop a competitive advantage most people will never have. Self-control is the bridge between goals and results. Emotions are temporary, but decisions create permanent consequences. If you act only when you feel motivated, you will live a life controlled by moods. But when you learn to act based on commitment instead of feelings, you step into power. This is where growth lies, in the moments you choose discipline over comfort. Your environment silently programs you. The people around you, the content you consume, the habits you tolerate, they all shape your thinking. If you stay in environments that encourage laziness, distraction becomes normal. But when you place yourself in spaces that demand growth, your standards rise automatically. Change your surroundings, and your behavior begins to change without force. Big success is never built in one dramatic moment. It is built in small, repeated actions. Waking up when you said you would. Working when you could make excuses. Choosing learning over entertainment. These small wins signal to your brain that you are a person who follows through. Over time, this becomes your identity, and identity drives behavior. The difference between people who succeed and those who stay stuck is often delayed gratification. One chooses temporary pleasure. The other chooses long-term reward. Training your mind to wait, to stay consistent, to endure discomfort, that is mental reprogramming. That is strength. Real transformation happens when you stop saying, "I want success," and start saying, "I am becoming disciplined. I am becoming focused. I am becoming someone with self-control." When your identity changes, your actions align naturally. Most people wait for a burst of inspiration before they act, believing success begins with a powerful feeling. But the mind does not respond to hope, it responds to repetition. Every day, actions are casting votes for the type of person someone becomes. When a person repeatedly chooses comfort, delay, or distraction, the brain wires that pattern as normal behavior. Over time, this becomes automatic, like a program running in the background. That is why change feels difficult. It is not a lack of desire, it is existing mental coding built through habits practiced for years. The encouraging truth is that programming can be rewritten. When small positive actions are repeated consistently, new neural pathways begin to form. Waking up on time, starting work without delay, finishing what was started. These actions may look small, but they are instructions to the brain. Gradually, the mind stops resisting effort because effort becomes familiar. What once felt uncomfortable starts to feel natural, and this is where real transformation begins. Discipline is often misunderstood as a personality trait that only a few people possess. In reality, it behaves more like a muscle than a gift. No one walks into a gym and lifts the heaviest weight on the first day. Strength is built through repeated strain, recovery, and gradual increase in challenge. The same principle applies to self-discipline. Each time a person does something they promised themselves, especially when they do not feel like it, they strengthen their ability to control future behavior. The brain learns that feelings do not have authority over decisions. Instead of waiting for motivation, action comes first, and motivation often follows. This practice shifts power from emotion to intention. Over time, tasks that once required intense effort demand less mental resistance. The individual starts trusting themselves because promises are being kept internally. That self-trust builds confidence, and confidence fuels bigger actions. Discipline then stops feeling forced and starts feeling like identity, shaping how choices are made in moments of pressure, distraction, and fatigue, turning consistency into a natural standard of living rather than a temporary push driven by mood or circumstance. Focus is often described as the ability to concentrate harder, but in reality it is the ability to remove what does not matter. The mind has limited attention, and every distraction takes a portion of that mental energy. When notifications, noise, and constant switching between tasks become normal, the brain adapts to shallow work. It becomes used to stimulation, not depth. This makes meaningful progress feel slow and uncomfortable, not because the task is impossible, but because the mind is no longer trained to stay still with one challenge. Building focus starts with subtraction. Reducing digital interruptions, creating a dedicated space for work, and setting clear time blocks send a message to the brain that this period is for one purpose. At first, restlessness appears. The urge to check, scroll, or switch tasks grows stronger. This is not failure, it is withdrawal from distraction. Each time attention is gently brought back to the task, mental endurance improves. Over time, the brain learns to settle, to stay, to go deeper. This is where quality thinking happens, where skills sharpen, and where results accelerate beyond what scattered effort could ever produce. Self-control is the quiet force that guides behavior when emotions are loud. Feelings change quickly, but decisions echo for a long time. Acting only when motivation feels high creates a cycle of inconsistency. Progress starts, stops, and starts again, leaving frustration behind. Developing self-control means learning to pause between impulse and action. In that pause lies choice. Instead of reacting automatically to stress, boredom, or temptation, awareness steps in. A question appears: does this action move life forward or backward? That small moment of reflection weakens the grip of emotion. The more this pause is practiced, the stronger it becomes. The brain begins to recognize that discomfort is temporary and does not require escape. Choosing to continue working while tired, to save money instead of spending impulsively, or to stay calm during conflict builds emotional regulation. These moments may feel small, but they reshape internal authority. Emotions still exist, but they no longer dictate direction. Self-control then becomes less about restriction and more about freedom. Freedom from habits that once controlled behavior, freedom to act based on values instead of moods, and freedom to create long-term results through steady, intentional decisions repeated across days and situations. Environment plays a stronger role in behavior than most people realize. Willpower feels powerful, yet it weakens quickly when surroundings constantly pull in the opposite direction. The spaces someone lives and works in send silent signals about what is normal. A cluttered desk invites distraction, a phone within reach invites scrolling, and people who avoid responsibility make procrastination seem acceptable. Over time, the brain absorbs these cues and adjusts behavior without conscious awareness. Changing results often begins not with more effort, but with smarter design of surroundings. Placing books within sight increases reading. Keeping unhealthy food out of reach reduces mindless eating. Working around focused individuals raises personal standards. These small adjustments lower the need for constant self-control because the environment starts supporting the desired behavior instead of fighting against it. When surroundings align with goals, progress feels less like a battle and more like a natural direction, as if the path forward has fewer obstacles competing for attention and energy. Success is rarely the result of one dramatic decision. It is built through small actions repeated daily until they shape identity. The brain learns through consistency, not intensity. A single long work session followed by days of inaction teaches inconsistency. In contrast, modest effort repeated every day sends a clear message: this behavior matters. Over time, neural pathways strengthen around these repeated choices, making them easier to perform. Waking up at the same time, reviewing goals each morning, practicing a skill for even a short period, these actions may appear insignificant in isolation, but together they create momentum. Each completion becomes evidence that commitments are being honored. That evidence builds self-trust, and self-trust fuels confidence to take on larger challenges. Gradually, the individual no longer sees these behaviors as tasks to force, but as part of who they are. This is how the mind becomes programmed for success, not through sudden transformation, but through steady, repeated signals that reshape patterns of thought and action, turning discipline into routine and routine into a foundation for long-term achievement across different areas of life and responsibility. The ability to delay gratification is one of the clearest indicators of long-term success. In a world designed for instant rewards, choosing to wait becomes a powerful act of control. Immediate pleasure often feels harmless, yet repeated indulgence trains the mind to seek comfort over growth. Each time short-term desire overrides long-term intention, the brain strengthens a pattern of escape. Over time, this weakens resilience and reduces tolerance for effort, boredom, or uncertainty. Learning to delay gratification reverses this process. It begins with small decisions: finishing work before entertainment, saving money before spending, practicing a skill before relaxing. These moments may seem minor, but they reshape the relationship with discomfort. The mind starts understanding that unease is temporary and often leads to meaningful outcomes. Patience becomes a skill, not a personality trait. As this skill develops, focus improves because attention is no longer constantly pulled toward quick rewards.